Let's talk about leading people who maybe don't want to be led, or maybe they kind of push back against you seemingly all the time. So there's some people that are just a joy to lead. They trust you from day one. They're excited about everything. If you're on the race, they're excited about the race. If you're leading a different program, if you're you're teaching something, it's like people show up. They're just like, oh man, this is great. They're always asking how they can help you. You ask for a volunteer, and they're like always raising their hand. They thank you for your leadership. Like, man, those people are great. They are such an encouragement. And the reality is, they're probably like that because of their parents or somebody who prepared them for you. So don't go getting too excited about your own leadership abilities because these people are just awesome and it likely has very little to do with you. Okay. Then there's the people who, for whatever reason, um, they just don't really want to step into line. They challenge little things. They might push you on things like curfew and on where they're allowed to go and not go. They might kind of flirt with the line on rules, and they're not dating anyone, right? But um, but they're always just kind of pushing. They have questions about why you're doing these things this way, and why should I have to fill in the blank, and where's all the money I raised going, etc. Okay, um, you're probably going to have some of these people. I actually hope that you do, and these people are going to challenge you, and these people are going to make you potentially feel insecure. Or more accurately, these people are going to reveal the insecurities that you already have. Because the reality is, sometimes we don't have good questions or we don't have good answers to the questions that they're asking. Um, or we don't like the answer, right? And so sometimes you might even be in a spot where you're under a leadership structure, whether that's World Race or something else, and you have to enforce a rule that you don't like. And they're like, why do I have to do this? And you're like, you're already frustrated that you had to give them this rule in the first place. And now they're pushing back, and now you're frustrated at them. Okay. That's a tough place to be. Sometimes you do have to enforce something. It's like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. This is the reason. I would love to do that. That'd be great. But we've been asked by the people that we're serving, the people who are leading, not to do that. And we're just going to ask you to honor that. If you don't know the answer, go get it. Be like, you know what? I don't know why we have to do it that way. I'm going to call up squad mentor. I'm going to call up my boss. I'm going to call up whoever's in charge of this thing and figure out why that's the case. And then I would love to explain it to you. Um, but man, these people can really just get under your skin, you know? Um, I want you to think about this, and I'd actually love for you to discuss this with whatever leadership team you might be a part of. What is your natural tendency with these people who push back, or with these people who bow up and kind of start to take a stand against you? I'll tell you what my natural tendency is. Mine is to crush them. Okay? I'll use my wit. I'll use my positional authority. I'll use the strength of my personality and my influence to be like, oh, you're trying to show me what's up? I'm going to show you what's up. It's interesting. As a parent, you start to see yourself, the good and the bad in your kids sometimes. And sometimes from the other room, I can hear Max playing with his sisters, and I'll hear him be like, oh yeah? And I'm just like, oh no, I know what's about to happen. And I can be honest enough to say, in my own spirit, that's what happens, right? So one of these punks shows up, and they start, pushing the line, they're doing stuff like that. And there's part of me that's like, oh yeah? That's my ego showing up. Nothing good comes from this battle. Okay? I have had many bad things personally come from this battle. Okay? One time I was at a debrief in South Africa, and I had been sent out as kind of the special ops guy. There was this squad that was in rough shape. Some stuff was falling apart. Things were bad, and it's like, I can go in and fix this, So I go in there, and there's some people who are pretty upset. And there's these people who start bowing up, and I have zero relationship with them, okay? All I have is I'm World Race Director, and I showed up here. So they start to come at me and I start to come right back at them. And I was like, oh man, I have a good answer. I can out debate them. I can show how they're wrong. And I started going down this path and things were just getting worse. And I turned to somebody on my staff who was next to me. And I was like, if I keep going here, am I going to get crucified? Literally, I said these words to her. And she looks at me, she goes, yeah, you probably are. And I was like, and the Lord was like, Bill, what are you doing? And the reality is, these people were in a spot where they were afraid, they were frustrated. And what I was trying to do was place them under my will and kind of like push them down. Our goal is not to push people down. Our goal is not to make this thing exactly what we want it to be and to get people to do exactly what we want them to do. We want to, once again, empower, bring out the greatness in these people. We want to get their power to be used in a helpful way. Okay, I'm going to go a little more. Let's talk about some other natural tendencies. Some of you might try to like woo them into liking you. Okay, it's like, oh, this person's a bit rebellious. I'm going to do anything I can to get on their good side. Okay, so you might try to like be their friend. You might try to like give them leeway, or you might try to just like turn a blind eye when they're doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. Whatever. You might try to like win them over to your side. You might try to tighten down the controls and the rules. Oh, you're going to push the line? I'm going to move the line 10 feet further back this way. Okay. I'm going to show you what's up. I am going to force you into line. Or what happens sometimes is people will use really spiritual language or really inflammatory language to get them to comply. Okay. This one time I was talking with this girl who she had stepped out of line like a little, it wasn't a big deal. And so I was having a conversation with her about it afterwards. And I wasn't even a leader on her squad at this point. Okay. And so she's talking to me and she goes, I know, like I've blown it so big. I've dishonored you and the leadership team. I've dishonored the whole squad. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there thinking like, I don't feel dishonored. You did something kind of dumb. This is not that big of a deal. But I realized that there had kind of developed this culture of really inflammatory language to get people to comply. And it wasn't helpful because this girl was using all this language, but she was just using the language she had been taught. There was no contrition in her heart. There wasn't that. Like she had learned like, oh man, there's this big thing and I got to get under it. And so I could tell this environment had been set. And so I was like, all right, let's walk this back and just actually have a conversation about what's happening here, So be very careful not to use this inflammatory language. I've talked with you in the World Race space about like the World Race 101, and it's like, oh, there was a season, I think we've moved away from it. I think people talk about a commitment and say, we're going to talk about a covenant. This is the covenant you're making with your team. I was like, covenant? You make covenants with God and your spouse. We're like pushing it a little far to put that language in the space of like, make sure you follow the rules I gave you, okay? So just like be aware, don't use this really big language to make people feel this like sense of shame or doom because they've stepped out of line, okay? So be careful with that. We also might call them rebellious. We might tell them they're sinning. We might remove them from positions of leadership or influence or ministry as a punishment. Likely we might use different language than that so we feel better about it. And we're like, I'm not punishing. It's like, this is discipline. This is this. And it's like, okay, be aware of what you're doing. Okay. There might be a situation where somebody is showing such a lack of wisdom and discernment and discretion that they need to not be allowed to do certain things. Fair. Okay. But be careful not to jump to that too quickly without addressing the matters of the heart. So guys, some of you know this. I almost got sent home for my World Race launch, okay? At the time, we launched from the field, so we're in New Zealand. And guys, I was so excited to be on the World Race. I really was. I loved it. The Lord was starting to open some stuff up for me. And he was starting to open stuff up for me about the Holy Spirit. And he was using the World Race to do that. And so I had a lot of questions. My questions, I was legitimately seeking understanding. I'm like, okay, awesome. This feels good to me. This feels real, but like, can you help me understand this from the scripture, right? So I'm like asking questions of people in leadership, and they looked at me and they saw I was 27 years old, so I was a little bit of like an older person on the world race. I was married. Um, I was an influential person. They had put me as like a team leader already, and they're like, "Oh no, we have an influential person who's pushing back." And literally, I found out later they had a conversation as a leadership team about sending me and my wife home from World Race launch. Praise the Lord, there was an elder in the room named Rosie McCormick who was like, no, guys, like he's asking the right questions. His heart is actually to engage in this and understand. Do not send him home. And I'm really glad that she won that fight and I didn't get sent home because obviously the world race was a transformational experience for me. And now I've been able to be involved in it and have influence on a lot of other people as well. But insecure leaders almost pulled the plug and sent me home because they did not know what to do with the fact that I wasn't just a compliant person that would fall into line. So, what's a healthy path? Um, one, I want you guys to be honest about what insecurity gets brought up in you when people push back. Uh, get honest with the Lord, get honest with your fellow leaders. Like, this is challenging for everybody, okay? Guys, I'm older than all of you, unless there's like random people watching this video who aren't in the world race space, right? And I, even 2 years ago, I had an 18-year-old pushing me hard, and it brought out some of the wrong stuff in me. I recognized it quickly. I repented both to him and to my leadership team, worked things out, was great. But it's like everybody is going to have a response to this. You just need to become aware of it and then walk it out healthy in the light with community with the Lord. Okay. 2, do not be passive. Okay. I'm not saying like just let them go. Okay. Not at all. Really, I actually think what you need to do is my third thing here, ask the Lord to show you the strength that this person has that they're misusing. A lot of times, these things that show up to us as like rebellion, they're actually an incredible gift. These people want to push the limits. They're going to push the limits on the kingdom. They're going to push back against the enemy. Guys, we're in a spiritual battle. We need people who are willing to fight. They just need to learn how to fight. They need to learn which direction to push their fight in. We don't just want a bunch of people who end up compliant but don't know how to push back against the kingdom of darkness, who don't know how to push back against you when you're wrong. I've had racers push back against me and I had to reconsider. I'm like, shoot, why am I doing it this way? I'm wrong. That's great. I'm glad. We need these people. These people are a gift. So ask the Lord, Lord, help me to see the strength and the ability and the beautiful thing that you've put in them. And then help them find healthy ways to redirect it. Once again, we want to maximize, we want to unleash potential. We don't want to be in control. So you can say to this person, man, here's what I see in you. You know what? You have a gift of leadership. You have a gift of influence. What's something that you would like to see happen in the squad? What's an opportunity you see? What would you think about leading people into fill in the blank, okay? And now some of this gets into like, just like being strategic, and this is a little bit of the way my brain works, but it's like, all right, you've got somebody who, let's say they keep coming in late after curfew. What if you put them in charge of locking up the gate? Okay? It's like, hey, you know what? Like, I would love to see you take responsibility for like the safety of our squad in the evening. So can you lock up the gate? Can you make sure like people are in here by 10 and you lock up the gate? You would be amazed at what could happen in a place like that. Now, with that person, that might be a terrible strategy. I don't know. Ask the Lord. Use some wisdom. But like, extend trust where it is not yet earned. In small ways, okay? You start small. It's not like, hey, you know, I don't really trust you, but here, take this $10,000 with the squad and like, you got it, okay? But find small ways to extend trust. Isn't this what the Lord does with us? He gives us trust before we've proved trustworthy. He gives us responsibility before we've proved that we're competent. But he sees something in us and he says, I know that you're going to need an opportunity to step into this. Guys, One more example here. When I was in college, there was this guy on my floor. My freshman year, his name was Matt. Okay, I won't say his last name, although he'd probably love me saying his last name. Matt McCormick. Okay, and Matt McCormick got moved to my floor partially because he was a bit of a prankster, and he would do like campus-wide pranks and stuff like that. And so they actually kind of intentionally isolated him from his friends, and they put him on our floor. Okay, at least I think this is how it went. This is my understanding. This is 20-something years ago. And Matt was like, he was this beautifully influential guy, and he would like organize pranks, and all of them were like pretty harmless, lighthearted stuff. You know what I mean? Like one morning we showed up to the student dining room at Moody, and all the chairs were gone. And they were all in the balcony of our chapel. And it was like, what the heck? Like, it was kind of funny, whatever, okay? But I know that people looked at him and they were like, this guy is a troublemaker. You know what? That guy and his wife moved to Haiti and served faithfully. Haiti or Dominican, one of those two. Might be wrong on my, but he served faithfully. You know what? Haiti is not a place for the faint of heart. Haiti is not a place for the people who are just going to show up and do what they're told and step into line. Haiti's a hard place. And Matt had some resilience and some drive and some fight in him that is now serving the kingdom in beautiful ways. And I'm glad that somebody saw that potential in Matt and actually gave him an opportunity and taught him how to use that in a healthy way. And that people didn't just look at him and say like, troublemaker, there's no place in our organization for you. So, deal with your insecurity. Address if there's behavior that actually has to change, is detrimental to the squad, whatever. But figure out, how do I unleash this potential that's just being misdirected right now? And I think you will see some incredible and beautiful things come from that. Don't send Bill Swan home from the world race.